Hi, everyone. We are very pleased to be here with people from all around the world. We really believe that we can co-create new possibilities together. So I really enjoyed preparing some tips and some reflections for us to share. The idea is during this conversation, this dialogue, I will share some reflections with you all. I've done these reflections because I have a background in the education and training context, as well as coaching, mentoring, and so on. And I've been working with a lot of people from companies, C-level, operational level, as well with young people as my mentees, as my colleagues, and so on. So I've been realizing that we are not using all our pie. Let's say, I am I am a specialist in pies. That's what my family says. So I really love to do it, and I think it's a good metaphor here. In fact, we are using most of the time when we talk about ourselves as mentors, ourselves as coaches, ourselves as applying to a new job, a new role, and so on, as half of us. In fact, we are a whole pie, not just half of us. But the system, the cultures, most of European cultures, and our education prepare us to look at ourselves from half of us, because we are invited to write our CVs describing our roles, what we did, our formal and academic diplomas, and so on. So when we are much more than half, we are a whole pie. And also, when we are talking with people during their careers, sometimes we ask them to do the same exam, the same test, the same assessments, because we believe that it's a fair selection to look at everyone from the same point of view, asking them to fit in a model, in a role description that's so anachronic, and I really believe that nowadays we need to go beyond that. And to be fair is to look to everyone and to each of us with all the talent that each one of us has it, and all the learning journey that we had. And we may have the same diplomas, we may have the same certificates, but in fact, we have a very unique learning journey. And that's so rich, so amazing. And that's what our society really needs now, because we are challenging, we are living challenging times. We are facing contexts that nobody knows what's going to happen. So we need to mobilize all our collective intelligence, and that starts by facing each one with all the richness, all the pie that we all are, not just half of us. And so my sharing today with you, I will share some reflections, and after we'll do some exercises. And because I would like that these reflections should be useful for you as coaches, as mentors, as professionals, as team leaders, whatever, but also that you can enable your team members, your mentees, your coaches to amplify themselves. So first of all, in order to understand what's going on, Nicola, may you put the...
Oh, release the polling.
Yeah. Wow. So it's good to see that most of us understand the lifelong learning concept. That's very important, as most of us work with people facilitating their development. So it's very good. And for us also, it's very important to know that we are always learning and always achieving more wisdom, more than technical or behavioral knowledge or skills. We are achieving more wisdom, and that becomes by reflecting on our experience. Wisdom is very, very important, but it just occurs when we reflect about our learning journey. Okay, so formal learning contexts, a big percentage. Okay, let's go. Thank you very much, because like this I can talk with you all with another perspective. Okay, so in fact, every experience you had becomes a repertory, a reference for the construction of your learning and future experience. And this is the first step. If we think like this, is the first step to understand that we must look at every experiences of our lives, and not only to our diplomas, our academic journey. For those who already understand, I think this definition is very interesting, because it includes, and that was my goal, to include all the context, the learning context, formal, informal, and non-formal learning opportunities throughout people's lives to foster continuous development and improvement. That's a very interesting thing. It's not just keep learning. It's not just keep going to different formal learning situations, courses, training courses, but all our learning journey. Another concept, and here it becomes to, I think it's very important for us to clarify the differences. You see, when we are talking about formal, we are talking about curriculum-driven grades, diplomas. Non-formal, organized learning events, but not in the, like in school, like in university. One good example is, for example, what we are doing here. And also when we are at companies, the courses that we teach inside the companies and so on. But informal contexts are much more wider. We have lots of ways to learn. And the main difference is because they are not structured in order to have a learning output, although it has. Okay, I think this map, this image, it's also interesting, because we can see that the learning space, let me just say that sometimes we talk about informal learning or non-formal learning or formal learning. That's incorrect. We must say the learning context must be, or is more correct to say, the learning context must be formal or non-formal or informal, because learning is learning. We don't have informal learning, non-formal learning. Okay? It's clear? But that's a mistake that I often see people do. So when we are in a formal context, you see, institution directed, the university, the school choose the things, the contexts, the learning objectives that we must learn. Non-formal, okay, we must have certificates, as sometimes we have in professional learning, but informal is much more different. It's much more big, and so this we achieve this kind of the learning from our informal contexts. It's much more an individual attitude. It's much more an individual accountability. When we are accountable and when we are aware of the importance of learning, keep learning, we see a movie, we learn, we travel, we learn, but we may do all that things, and but if we don't reflect upon them, in fact, we don't learn as much as we could if we reflect on them. That's why I think that we as coaches, mentors, leaders, or whatever, must be aware of this and invite our coaches, our mentees, our colleagues to do it, and to celebrate that, because usually we celebrate when someone has a diploma. I went to London to see my daughter in a huge party with her diploma, but in fact, sometimes I don't celebrate as much when she tells me that she she traveled to Indonesia, for example, and in fact I didn't celebrate as much, but she learned so much from that experience. So it's very important for us to be aware of this, that learning from informal learning spaces is very rich and arrives when we reflect upon them. One more image, I think this is very important. Our learning journey, we may have data, but when we give meaning to the data, we get information. When we connect information, we got knowledge. And when we reflect and realize and get a new and create a new idea, because we have knowledge and we apply that knowledge because we had different connections, we have insights. And wisdom really arrives when we connect all the insights. I believe that when you all are coaching or mentoring someone, and the person is talking to you and talking about their situation, their expectation, wherever, their problems, wherever, you are reaching all your learning journey, all your insights you had during your life, and you are able to do that powerful question, to invite the person to a reflection with a wisdom that sometimes you don't really know how to explain. That's a high level of being present in the situation, and also being present with all our learning journey. Okay? So, do you have any questions right now? Because I would like to invite you to an exercise. But before, João, do you think there are any questions? João, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah. Go ahead, because the questions you gave the answers.
I gave the answers? Okay.
Yes.
But just tell me, it's clear for all of you? Okay? Okay, so my challenge is I would like to invite you to reflect on this. Are you saying reflect about your informal learning journey? What did you learn? You may choose my challenge or my invite is for you is to choose one of this within your family. I can imagine that you learn lots of things while entertaining yourself with your hobby or sports, as a member or leader of a club or association, or even a party, a political party, as a volunteer, while traveling, when you were stretched or had overcome a major setback, with people, significant people, mentors, informal mentors, when you had to do difficult choices, make difficult choices from mistakes or wow moments that you had on your learning journey. So I invite you to think about it for 5 minutes.
Sorry, Anna, Anne-Marie here in Ireland. Could I just ask a very quick question?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Anna. You're very good. My question is, just can you explain the difference between formal and non-formal? I understand it, but you said that certificates are, you know, it could end up in a certificate. Does that mean sort of like a hobby? You know, if I decide to be a creative writer, that's formal, I get a certificate, but it isn't, you know, like my degree in coaching or whatever.
The difference between non-formal or informal learning contexts is that in non-formal, we were in a course on a learning space. That's the goal is to facilitate us to learn something, and they may give us certificates, okay? But it doesn't need to be on an academic institution. For example, here we are, the goal is to learn, to improve our knowledge about these different learning contexts and improve our knowledge to know how we can amplify ourselves beyond our CVs, because our CVs mainly or most of the times have formal certificates and diplomas. So my invitation is for you to think about informal situations, because informal situations, they happen. We learn a lot with them, but the main goal was not to give to enable us to learn something and to give us a certificate, because when we go to traveling, when we are learning within our family, when we are doing a sport, like a team sport, we learn lots of things like teamwork, like making decisions, like knowing people from other countries. Sometimes we are learning languages because we are competing with different nationalities. So we learn lots of things, but what's missing? To reflect on that and to use it as a powerful component, a powerful part of our CVs. That's clear? Someone asked me to explain a little bit more the difference between informal and non-formal. Non-formal situations are like, for example, training courses within a company. What's the main goal of a company? It's not like providing courses. The company has a goal. It's but okay, we may have courses within it. Okay, so non-formal spaces, learning spaces or learning contexts are the contexts that there's a coach or like a teacher, a trainer, a professional trainer that's who decided the content that she or he would teach us. But when we travel, when we are living with our family, our friends, when we are taking decisions, we are learning a lot, but the main goal of it was not to learn, okay? Maybe it was to entertain. Okay, nowadays we talk a lot about edutainment, because of course we learn better when we are in a wonderful place and playing and so on. But when we are traveling, when we go to Disney World, when we have to make decisions, when we divorce, when we have a child, when we got married, we learned a lot of things. But the main purpose was not to have a certificate. When we divorce, we get a certificate. But okay, that's not the goal. The idea is, what did we learn within situations that the main goal was not to enable us to learn, but we did it. Okay, so the difference is when we amplify ourselves, we got aware about that learnings because we reflected upon them. Okay, so that's clear now. I don't know who asked me for the Luis. It was you? No. Okay, but someone asked me. So the first thing I would like you to share, please, invite you to share, is what did you feel when you were recognizing learnings that you achieved on informal learning context? What's the feeling? Who wants to share? How does it make you feel? Yeah, Nicola helped us. You may write on the chat, but I would also like to hear you.
Hi, Ana.
Marcos, thank you.
Bon dia from Spain.
Bon dia.
Well, actually, learning is always good.
Yeah.
We are like monkeys, but with a little bit more of brain. So at the end, whatever you learn every single day is just make you a better person. So if you are a better person, you can just share your knowledge to the people who is surrounding you. Okay. And we can build up a better society, although it's a little bit dreamer, yes. But is the way of thinking, and probably is the way of the thinkers of the mid-age of the last century. But learning when you're traveling is good. You just see another way of living, see how the people behaves. This probably is the way that I love to travel. When I'm traveling with my wife, I just want to live the life of the people who is there. So just what pleased me the most is not to be recognized as a tourist when I'm traveling away. Okay. And I manage myself to do it in a few places. And probably the most astonishing one was in New York, that the people were confusing us like locals, even though, I mean, my accent is pretty obvious that I'm not from New York, but it was really funny though.
Thank you. What do you feel when you recognize? Patricia, your...
For me, it's more powerful because I'm not waiting for it. I'm not waiting for that knowledge when it comes in a formal way. That's why I feel it more powerful.
Okay, that's good, because you know sometimes we have coaches, mentees, mainly in professional situations, that they don't have a huge self-esteem because they think, I don't have a university diploma, I know this, but I don't have a certificate. And sometimes adults are not they motivated to keep learning because they think they miss something. They miss a university course. They are missing something, and that's a huge problem for all the world, because you need everyone to build a new society. So we need them to enrich and to have more self-esteem in order to understand that they have lots of learnings and they can keep learning and using that learning in companies, in work, in life, all over. Teresa, Guanzon. Okay, I was only.
But thank you. Yeah, so I feel very stoked or excited. I'm pumped that I'm consciously or sometimes unconsciously stretching. So when I stretch, I discover new things. I see something that's old differently, and I'm really making sure that I make those connections. So that's why I'm excited, because I'm always discovering something new or different.
Yeah, that's nice. And you know, discovering, it's a powerful way of surprising ourselves. We surprise ourselves by discovering something new. That's when we have an insight, for example. So imagine. João Brás.
I think that's exactly it. The beauty of and the excitement of discovering and being and when we get aware that we've actually learned something and discovered something new, and we were able to to do it, I think it brings us a sense of fulfillment that is very powerful, and it's a very conscious act. So it's overwhelming. That's what I feel.
Nice. I was thinking here that you can imagine if we all as a society recognize and give the same value at learnings, that we have diplomas and that we don't have diplomas, this could influence a lot how our companies are structured, because we have progressions in career and so on. Most of times are decided because you have a university diploma or you don't have a university diploma. The levels of earning, I may earn this amount of money because I have a diploma and my colleague can't. We still have lots of companies and countries where this work like this, and so we must go beyond that. Luis, we can't hear you.
Yes, I think that you said very correctly that the informal learning is self-directed. I mean, it comes out from us. And I think all learning should be like that. So when it's prescriptive, you think people are going to learn, but if they don't care and they're not motivated, okay, they're not going to learn. And I think this is the way, teaching and training is changing very much.
Yeah.
And so if people, they discover by themselves, they notice by themselves, they're going to learn much more and be motivated.
Okay. So who wants to share some findings? For example, does anyone choose a family context or sports context or anything else? No? Yeah.
And
Anna,
I can share. I was in a group with Penny, Anna, and also Diana, and we talk about, or I share also about how life events can be a source of huge learning, not only because sometimes we are challenged to have different roles in the group where we are, and also because our identity, who we are, change as a result of that.
Yes. Priscilla, thank you, Anna.
Yes, Anna, I have a question, please. I was in the group with João and Manuel, and at the end we were discussing, for example, I have a hobby, mindfulness.
Okay.
And I did training, but I mean personal training, and went to summer schools. But then migrating my hobby to my coaching practice, I think is a big stretch, you see, and also because I think that mindfulness more and more is being regulated, at least in the UK. And so you see, it's like how to migrate your hobby into your coaching practice. This, for me, this is a big, you see, my question. I don't know if you can have experience. Yeah.
What I say is we must reflect on our life journey, informal learning spaces, and it's not only having a good feeling about it, is recognizing, reflecting in a structured way, and recognizing what kinds of learnings we had, like technical learnings, like behavioral learnings, like interactive learnings, communication, whatever. And then as we are more aware of them, we can use it in other contexts. For example, if you have a mindfulness practice, it's so useful to be aware of the advantage of it, what you learn. Learning, it's a huge concept. We can see learning as I learned that, but it can be like wisdom also, the feeling, the presence I can improve by having a mindfulness practice that I bring to my coaching or mentoring or leadership practice. And that is a conscious, at the first step, it's a conscious decision. It's a conscious strategy. So it's like learning to use a cycle. First of all, we need to look at every details, but at some point it flows. So the idea is, of course, first of all, the exercise I invite my coaches, my mentees, and I do for myself is to reflect on a more structured way. Okay, within my family, what did I learn? And within my mindful practice, not mindful course only, because I do this. Well, and then use it and be aware of it, write it. Our portfolios sometimes are only inside our heads. But I think it's very useful, and it's a very powerful tool to write it. People that have already been at the EMCC accreditation process realize that the main goal of it is to invite us to reflect on our learning journey and to realize what kind of learnings we had. And most of the situations are not only courses, are not only formal or non-formal learning contexts. Okay? That's okay, Priscilla?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Obrigada.
Thank you. More shares. Who wants to share more things about the experience you have, like sports? Did anyone talked about sports or our family, or Marina, Linda, Nadia.
I'm willing to share. So I talked about the on becoming a mum, becoming a mother, so the journey of motherhood in the last kind of 16 months or so, that in addition to COVID as well. So that year coincided with constant pressure. And I think I learned a lot about myself in terms of how I deal with constant pressure rather than, you know, pressure that's on and off, which we may face, you know, from time to time. So it's more about how do I constantly build resilience, and perhaps resilience more from a positive language perspective rather than, you know, to take on more, to do more, to be more. So I think that was the first time that I've experienced myself in circumstances which were both internal and externally pressurized.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just building on that, we had some discussion in our group about stressful times and how the learning that comes out of stress. And, you know, I believe there's a real magic when we become comfortable with knowing that the stress we can't impact. That's external stresses we can't impact. But knowing that when we come out of that, something often, if we reflect, good things come out of it. And it's just kind of a magic in the knowing. And I think it's a bit of a shame that so many people in the world don't see that. They are so stuck in the stress. And so, yeah, we talked a little bit about just the stress of life, and there's an incredible opportunity for learning.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. More sharing, Margarida?
Yes, I just like to add the word gratitude, because I think that I agree with everything that everybody has just said, but the empowerment, the sensation of being more aware of what we can do, of what we can achieve, and so on. But at the same time, the sense of gratitude for those moments, for those experiences. So I think that at the same time that we realize that we are learning, add some learning, some knowledge to our lives and to our the way that we live and the way that we look to the others and to everything that is surrounding us, is a sense of gratitude for what we have achieved so far and what we have been through till this moment.
Thank you, Margarida. Yes, indeed. So the strategy to use this tool to amplify ourselves, let's say, it's not we are already that, but sometimes we are not aware of that. That's all the pie we are. So first of all, we must live the experience. That's why it's so important to invite people, our students, our leaders, our colleagues, ourselves, to be in different, to have different experiences, try different contexts, multicultural contexts, different situations, different places, different books, different authors, different movies. The idea of tribes is interesting, but at some point we must invite our young people to relate with people from other tribes, because they will be much richer and they will amplify themselves, because they will feel and live challenges that they didn't had with people that was from their circle. Social networks at some point invite us to relate with people that have the same kind of mindset as we have. So we limit ourselves. We are everywhere aware at it, and at the same time we are in a short space. So first of all, we need to allow ourselves and invite our children, our students, our coaches, our mentees, our colleagues to have different experience, to live different experience, to search for different experience. After, invite them to realize and reflect, what did I learn? What did I feel? How can I structure these learnings? Of course, this is another talk. We can, in another situation, explore it. But how can I structure these learnings? Where can I use it? Okay, and this is a rational process. It's a rational tool. How can I compare what I learned in this travel, for example, with what I need to do in my work, with my team, with my colleagues? Okay, so transfer. How can I transfer this? And how can I keep being aware? And that's why team coaching, that's why leaders that invite people to reflect, that's why families that invite their own family to reflect on that, keep reflecting on that. It's very important to achieve a point where I use all that wisdom, all that data, knowledge, insights I have, but in a smooth way. Like wisdom is that I use it, I'm present, and I'm full of things that I can connect and I can use within my interactions. And at some point, as you know, in coaching, in mentoring, my presence is when I'm there, just me, but with all of me, with all of my experience, that enables me to use it in a flow way, and not now I'm going to use this, now I'm going to use that. No, with flow, the flow in mentoring, the flow in coaching, the flow with talking with our sons. So we are on our time. I don't know if you want to say anything else, but I just wanted to, if you allow me to finish sharing this. The portfolio of competencies is a tool, a very important tool. Mind maps can help us and our coaches, our mentees, our students to do it. When we design, when we put in the paper all the situations we lived and what we learned, we begin to discover different things that at the first sight I couldn't be aware of it. So mind maps are very useful to have to put in the paper your portfolio of competencies. Of course, it's very good that even the formal system, learning system, like universities, like schools, are more and more aware of the importance of inviting students to bring to the learning process all the learnings they achieved on, for example, informal learning spaces or contexts. So this is a very important tool. And I would like to finish with this. In fact, self-directed learner takes control and accepts the freedom to learn what they view as important to them, for them. Of course, this is very important. And us, as mentors, as coaches, also, I believe, that's my responsibility to say this, I believe that we can invite them to amplify what they view as important for them. Because sometimes they just want to learn this or this or this, and we may enable them to understand that it can be bigger. So this is very important, of course. I think we all agree. And my last statement is, you are a whole pie, not just half. Amplify yourself. That's my invitation. And okay, I don't know if you would like to say
Anna,
something to close.
Anna, thank you so much. And I think this is terribly powerful for unemployed people. I work with a group of unemployed people who have to relocate, on the market, and they cannot think this. I mean, they just think about the 3 or 4 skills, they acquired, and it's so hard for them to, have this kind of holistic view about themselves. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I'm very grateful for sharing this. I really believe this is the way to be all the pie.